Sup YouTube, this is Slide Fry here. So Scott the Woz uploaded a video yesterday, and I did record a reaction to Scott the Woz weeks ago when he came back with Donkey Kong Barrel Blast. It's just there was a lot of interruptions because of the Johnny Depp trial that was still going on at the time, and my wife would come in to talk to me while we were while I was recording, and I was planning on editing that actually because, well, first of all, I end up not uploading the video even though I put it all together because I was getting a lot more views with Johnny Depp trial stuff than I was with my reaction videos, like by a lot. And but I do regret that I took so long to upload that video. I did decide to do some editing on my new editing software, Kden Live, a free editing software I got since Adobe took away the one I paid for 10 years ago, Adobe CS6, Premiere Pro CS6. But anyway, if you haven't already, check out the video I made, my first ever edited video from Kden that I used Kden Live to make. It's really fun. It's less than a minute long. Anyway, excuse me. I was going to edit the Scott the Woz reaction to Donkey Kong Barrel Blast a lot more, but I haven't really had time to work on it. Plus, I've been thinking about other upcoming projects, so I'll get back to fixing that. And what I'll do instead is just cut out the interruptions. That's it. I won't actually edit the other stuff, other footage over it that I was thinking of doing. Anyways, let's do this new Scott the Woz reaction. Can't guarantee I'll do it in one part, but because I have work to do. But let's go.
Hey y'all, Scott here. 3D is the future yesterday! And I'm not referring to 2D 3D, I'm referring to 3D 3D.
Yes. Yes.
Pretty realistic, huh?
Ow.
I'll take that as a yes. Look out, it's right in front of you! Oh god!
3D, a gimmick I have to check the meter to comment on.
Who gives a sh**?
Every few decades it goes in and out of fashion, primarily being used in movie theaters to sell more expensive tickets. Wow, it's like I'm really there. That's f***ed up. Pop the glasses on and you're transported to a world of layers. It can be a pretty cheap effect, but it can add to some experiences, and honestly, video games seem to be the perfect medium for the gimmick. Stereoscopic 3D allows you to better judge depth of field or have something pop out at you, which could greatly improve numerous titles. Plus, video games were already being advertised as immersive adventures, so adding 3D to the mix just flat out made sense. To which, many would say, well, yeah, of course, the Nintendo 3DS released in 2011, featuring a screen that could display 3D visuals without the need of glasses. There was a lot that led to that moment.
That was definitely a gimmick though, because I mean, I didn't even bother with the 3DS. I got a 2DS years later because I didn't need the 3D features. I've played a 3DS before. I used to work at Taco Bell, and back then I didn't have a 3DS or 2DS. It was in 2013 when I was doing this. My supervisor, he had a 3DS and Mario Kart 7, and he had like other 3DSs, I guess. So yeah, that was my experience. I played Mario Kart 7 with my supervisor and coworkers when we were supposed to be working. Oh my god. I guarantee you some customers were pissed off because you can't even pause it when you're doing multiplayer against each other. So I was like, no, I'm not taking this guy's order. I'm supposed to take this guy's order. I'm supposed to do my job, but nope. I'm going to play the video game instead. I want to finish the race and win. And then my boss was like, oh, you should stop. You should stop. But I know why he did that. He wanted me to lose. You know, he wanted me to. It wasn't because he wanted me to work. It was because he wanted me to lose. Oh man, a lot of fun. And yeah, I just wasn't really into the 3D feature. I typically had it switched off, so I was like, what the hell's the point? So 2DS was good for me because it was like $70 less to not have the 3D feature. And I didn't mind it. It was like flat like this instead of clamshell, you know. I didn't mind it. I could fit it in my pocket even when it was like that.
Believe me.
But before we get too deep, there was a lot that led to that moment.
Believe me.
Before we get too deep, keep in mind, stereoscopic 3D flickers a bunch. If you have a sensitivity to flashing images or experience epilepsy, anything like that, this old 3D gaming talk may not be for you, so keep that in mind. 3D gaming can be traced all the way back to a little arcade game from 1982 titled SubRock 3D, created by Sega. An arcade machine with a pair of goggles mounted directly in front of the screen. Sega, they gave us Sonic and Pink Eye. It's a naval combat game, which, hey, if any game makes sense to incorporate a periscope that doubles as a pair of 3D glasses, it's this one. It does actually feel like you're controlling the artillery of a submarine this way. And
I played an arcade like that before.
You see some
Much newer,
depth
though.
with the stereoscopic 3D. However, this was only possible in the arcades. SubRock 3D did get a ColecoVision release in the homes, but only as SubRock without any 3D effect. And this allowed me to reflect on some personal choices of mine.
I fucked up.
Without the 3D, this game was entirely disposable, which definitely proved a point early on here. 3D should enhance an already great game, not be the entire point of its existence. I think being in the...
You make an interesting point there. Yeah, there. I live in Santa Rosa, as I've mentioned before, just one town south of Roanoke Park, and there used to be a place called Qzar there, where my then friends and I would play laser tag during our teen years in the 2000s. Well, there was actually an interesting arcade there that you go up to the machine. There's a screen there, but what you do is you put this helmet on that's like up there. You just put it on like this, and you're holding the sides like this, like handlebars on a bike or something like that, or periscope or whatever, and there's triggers there. So fire, grenade, something like that. So you move like this. You literally can turn completely around. It was actually pretty cool, especially for early for the mid 2000s. I mean, I remember playing that before the Wii even came out. So yeah, that was it was a cool experiment. I haven't seen it in arcades since, though. Qzar is long gone, actually. I'm not going to get into too much into that, though.
The arcades does lend a game like this to be more of a cheap gimmick. When it comes to at-home play, however, I feel that there's some potential. These games have to be longer. Home being in should enhance an already great game, not be the entire point of its existence. I think being in the arcades does lend a game like this to be more of a cheap gimmick. When it comes to at-home play, however, I feel that there's some potential. These games have to be longer lasting, no one-and-dones. So if they supported 3D, who knows, we might find ourselves a killer app for stereoscopic gaming.
I have a lot of hope for what happens in 1982.
Here we have the Vectrex, the future of gaming.
Wow, that's fucking bleak.
I don't care what anybody says. This is one of the coolest gaming oddities. It's basically a miniature TV with a controller built in, displaying vector graphics, which aren't pixelated. They're simple, but perfectly smooth at the same time. There's truly nothing else like it. It's something you have to see to believe in person, because no matter who you are, you'll at least think it looks kind of neat. But what would make it look kind of neater is the Vectrex 3D Imager, the first pair of 3D glasses created for a home video game, portable video game. Vectrex. Each 3D Vectrex game comes with a color wheel that you insert into the headset and spins while playing. Side note, mine came stained. It's kind of funny how the Vectrex, out of all consoles, was the first to have an accessory like this, considering how the display was black and white. You'd have to lather these overlays on it to even get a hint of the stuff. But to make this work for 3D, the headset is where you put the overlay, and it spins it around to alternate colors, making the graphics appear to have depth. Supposedly. Yeah, I have 3D Crazy Coaster here, one of the few 3D Vectrex titles. I guess this is supposed to be a roller coaster simulator for fucking robots. Yeah, for me personally, the 3D Imager doesn't really add a whole lot of depth to the image. It more so just makes it viewable to me. But this helped to lay the groundwork for 3D gaming at home, and should be respected for that. Making a 3D headset for a black and white vector graphic based console in 1982? That takes guts and methamphetamine. But in 1987, all it took was the latter. The Famicom 3D system by Nintendo. Yep, 3D gameplay on the Japanese version of what we got over here as the NES, the Famicom. Oh my god, this is such a sleek, futuristic accessory. What did we get over here in North America? A really bad shopping list. So we never got a full-blown official 3D gaming accessory for the NES over here. Any game that had a 3D mode, you would just use the typical paper glasses for. These were the reason why I never understood 3D branded technology being so much more expensive back then. Why are they expecting me to pay thousands more for a feature Spy Kids gave out for free? Well, have you tried playing Red Racer in 3D? He did. The Famicom 3 headset is far more advanced. It plugs into the system and conveys a much stronger and more stable stereoscopic effect than what you'd get with a standard pair of paper glasses. But that's like saying this corpse is stronger than this one. So this headset uses a style of stereoscopic...
My corpse will be the strongest. I don't know why I said that. That was stupid.
3D possible by active shutters. Basically, the gameplay flickers between two images, in which each lens of the headset will exclusively show each eye one of the two, which creates a 3D effect. Now, you're probably wondering how good the 3D effect is on 8-bit games from the 1980s, so that's why society is crumbling. I have a couple of compatible games right here. There weren't many, only 7, and only one of them was made by Nintendo themselves. Famicom Grand Prix 2 3D Hot Rally, an entry in a series you could consider to be a precursor to Mario Kart. To enable the 3D mode in most of these games, you just hit the select button and wow, you're transported to the same damn game you were playing before. It's just harder to see now. So, the 3D works. In a game like 3D Hot Rally, I can clearly see that the car's in the foreground with the other elements in the background, but it is a very weak effect. It's there, but I have yet to play any Famicom game where the 3D enhances the experience and doesn't hinder it. Take, for example, this game, Falcyon. Everybody knows Falcyon.
Okay, well, not the morgue.
This is a space shooter played from the perspective of behind the ship, which is rare for games of this era. It works fairly well in 2D. However, in 3D, I just get a whole lot of double vision. Maybe it's my eyes, the TV I'm using, the age of the 3D headset. I don't know, because apparently this game is considered by some to have some of the best 3D on the system. Though I cannot see how people would think it's necessary. This game, alongside all the others, works much better in 2D. The 3D is a cute little gimmick, but only for a second. Then after that, you ask yourself the fabled question.
Why?
While the Famicom 3D system works, it doesn't add anything to these games other than a very slight feeling of depth. But if anything, it makes them harder to play due to the constant flickering and awkward headset. With the goggles on, it's like I'm playing the game with sunglasses. Everything's darker, and with the glasses using active shutters and the game flickering back and forth, the 3D may work most of the time, but it's always going to be a much clearer and easier experience playing in 2D. And the only games released for the thing were either just racers or shooters. And if they came over to North America, they included paper glasses in the package, which didn't work as well, but for how little the Famicom 3D system enhanced the experience, I think these were a fine substitute. Needless to say, the Famicom 3D system flopped. Only 7 games, none of which were the most compelling and only covered like 2 genres. The 3D effect, while there, wasn't good enough to warrant setting up the headset to play every time and investing in a whole ass accessory like this. Yep, I'm putting my foot down with the whole Famicom 3D system debate. Damn, Scott's just gonna say that in the open just like that?
Okay.
Nope.
Well, Nintendo wasn't the only video game company pushing 3D in the home at the time. We're cycling back over to Sega, who released this, the Sega 3D glasses for the Sega Master System. In terms of how it works, remember this? Yeah, these function in pretty much the same way. However, the game lineup is far more impressive. There are 8 games. While Nintendo dipped their toe into 3D, Sega threw their whole ass ankle into it. There's so much more variety in the games that supported the feature. Plus, the Sega 3D glasses released outside of Japan, which says a lot. That's correct, we had the right to play Zaxxon in 3D. Damn, it's good to live in Ohio. And yeah, I'd say these were a far better value than the Nintendo equivalent.
I angered them.
Moving into the 1990s, 3D wasn't attempted nearly as much on
Not a bash against Ohio. It's just it's always considered one of the cheapest states, and for a reason. There's some bad cities there. Cleveland, for example, is an awful place to live for most people, which is why a lot of people will leave in Cleveland, like a lot of people live in Detroit. Anyways, but no, there's some nice parts of Ohio, obviously. Like the capital, Columbus, is actually, I've heard, is a really nice city. I'm from California, so actually I sometimes envy people in Ohio because they spend so much less to live anywhere because everything's so expensive here in California. We got nice weather, nice beaches. You go inward, you can find snow. You got a little of everything here, but it comes at a great cost, unfortunately. So at least in Ohio, you can afford to live there. Anyways, yeah, not to bash them or anything.
a consumer.
Angered them.
Moving into the 90s were a far better value than the Nintendo equivalent.
I angered them.
Moving into the 1990s, 3D wasn't attempted nearly as much on a consumer level. Most projects that were being
Actually,
done, we had supported the feed 3D. Sega far more impressive. There are 8 games. While Nintendo dipped their toe into 3D, Sega threw their whole ass ankle into it. There's so much more variety in the games that supported the feature, plus the Sega 3D glasses released outside of Japan, which says a lot. That's correct, we had the right to play Zaxxon in 3D. Damn, it's good to live in Ohio. And yeah, I'd say these were a far better value than the Nintendo equivalent. I injured them. Moving into the 1990s, 3D wasn't attempted nearly as much on a consumer level. Most projects that were being developed never saw the light of day, like Sega VR for the Sega Genesis. I mean, the PlayStation 4 can barely do virtual reality. It needs a whole ass this to be plugged in. You expected the Sega Genesis to be able to hold its own?
No.
However, Nintendo pulled through.
They did it. They f***ed up.
The Virtual Boy was Nintendo's second attempt at stereoscopic 3D gaming. We know that because it has the blood of its elders' victims on it. This was cobbled together because Nintendo kept delaying the release of the Nintendo 64 and needed a body. So out comes an unfinished game system simply meant to keep store shelves warm, and a 3D game system at that. See, the Virtual Boy being all about 3D from the get-go rather...
I've actually played a little bit of Virtual Boy. Yeah, I've actually played it before. I was over at an apartment for another. He's more like an acquaintance. I actually haven't talked to him in years. His name is also Sean, like my name, spelled the same too, except he's Hispanic and I'm, white with Irish and other European descents. Anyways, I played a Virtual Boy at his apartment once, and yeah, I played this game, the boxing one. I found it challenging, but it was cool. The boxing game was pretty cool. The Cellular Boxer. Wario Land, that game is really good. It's I know Nintendo feels ashamed about the Virtual Boy because of how much of a failure it was, but like, I wish they would at least release the Virtual Boy Wario Land on Virtual Console. Make it play, if it was available to download on the Switch, I would play it in a heartbeat because that game's actually really cool. I like it. I like all the Wario Lands. I like the original Wario Land on Game Boy. I like how Wario Land on Virtual Boy played more like the original Game Boy one, because Wario Land 2, 3, and 4 were very different than the first Wario Land. So it was cool that the Virtual Boy one was a little more like the first one. Not saying that 2, 3, and 4 are bad. Wario Land 3 is my favorite Wario Land game, actually, but it would be nice if it'd be possible to play Virtual Boy Wario Land on modern hardware, because it just doesn't make any sense, because it's actually a good game. It's a game that didn't need to be on Virtual Boy at all. If they released it, maybe they should have re-released it on Game Boy. That would have been great. Actually, I guess they couldn't have, based on... No, they couldn't have done that because of the... No, that wouldn't have been possible. But if they could have released it on newer hardware, it'd be awesome.
Rather than simply being relegated to an add-on, helped get the Virtual Boy game system simply meant to keep store shelves warm, and a 3D game system at that. See, the Virtual Boy being all about 3D from the get-go, rather than simply being relegated to an add-on, helped give us some of the most inventive and innovative applications of 3D gaming yet. It's also the Virtual Boy. Visuals restricted to a red and black color palette. Burgundy wasn't returning their calls. Awkward design that invited you to confuse your neighbors across the street. The Virtual Boy was one of the biggest busts in all of gaming. But that doesn't mean it didn't have value. The specs here allowed for far more types of 3D games rather than just shoot or drive. We got platformers focusing on hopping between the foreground and background, a first-person survival horror game, puzzle games, boxing, tennis, golf, baseball, fishing, water world. While 3D gaming was far from necessary for most, if not all of these games and genres as a whole, the Virtual Boy helped show how 3D could potentially enhance them. Being able to judge where everything in the environment is in relation to the golfer, being immersed in a world of horror, not being able to look away like you could with a TV screen. I'm not saying the Virtual Boy necessarily succeeded with these concepts. I mean, it all worked fine enough, though it didn't light the world on fire. But it most certainly showed how they were possible, and you can see their innovations present in modern gaming experiences.
I like this. I like that he's actually putting a positive take on this. It's kind of like how I feel with the Wii U. The Wii U was a failure for the Nintendo console, and it's because of poor marketing. The name of the title was confusing, of the console was confusing to people. There's a lot of people who didn't even know the Wii U was a console and thought it was peripheral for the Wii. So that was, yeah, lack of marketing, bad marketing. the name of the console. But the Wii U did lead to the Switch. I mean, when I first had a Wii U, I thought that the gamepad, the idea with the gamepad was that I could take the game with me anywhere. But no, I can't take it too far away from the console. So I kind of feel like the Switch was their way of fully realizing what they had intended to do. Because I feel like with the Wii U, they probably meant for that, but couldn't do it at the time.
The Virtual Boy only had nearly 24 games released for it worldwide and was discontinued in 1996, less than a year after its debut. The 3D was honestly some of the best seen in gaming thus far, but does that really matter when you make 50% of these glasses worthless? Most of the Virtual Boy's shortcomings stemmed from cutting costs, like with the color palette and age restrictions. You probably shouldn't view this if you're under the age of 7. Well, yeah, you probably shouldn't drink and drive, but people still do it. What did we learn from the Virtual Boy? Nothing. Well, the failure of this console can show consumers didn't really respond well to a fully 3D game system. Stereoscopic 3D is an illusion. Many people can see it, but some just can't. And even those who can see it, it can really wear down your eyes and hand out headaches. So while the Virtual Boy did find far more creative uses for 3D in gaming than ever before, you couldn't turn the 3D off. Well, without surgery.
For Mario Clash?
It was completely impractical. This was a system made for a cheap 5-minute thrill, or look, the baseball's coming right towards me. I can do that for free. Legitimate gaming experiences that players were expecting in 1995. I mean, most of the Virtual Boy's library consisted of titles that felt more like arcade games you played for 3 minutes at a time compared to the multi-hour experiences being released around then. No wonder this thing flopped. While it did have some merit, this was exactly what was wrong with 3D in gaming, putting 3D before gaming. However, that didn't deter Nintendo from pursuing this field even more. At this point, I don't know what would have. So the GameCube and Game Boy Advance were initially designed with some 3D capabilities in mind, more so the GameCube. Games like Luigi's Mansion in particular were tested with stereoscopic 3D, which makes a lot of sense. Each room in the game almost feels like you're peering through a dollhouse, so it definitely would feel right at home with the feeling of depth 3D allows. However, while the GameCube did have the necessary components inside it to display 3D imagery, like you can crack yours open right now and we'll find the technology required for such a thing, Nintendo opted to just scrap the feature for consumers, as it would have been far too expensive for a headset accessory and even a TV capable of 3D back then. It was always difficult for me as a kid to understand why sometimes 3D was expensive as it was, and other times it was included in a $5 Walmart DVD. Now, I definitely understand the type of 3D Nintendo was testing with the GameCube was much more robust and functional, while the cheap red and blue paper glasses made more sense for a picture book or something. But I think my childhood mentality of, why is this 3D more expensive than this 3D, is something many people had, which is why more elaborate expensive 3D devices didn't catch on too much.
For some reason, I never really put thought into that. I guess growing up in the 90s, even though I grew up in the 90s, I guess I didn't really get that much into, 3D. I mean, I've seen 3D things before. I think when I was at Disneyland, I think. Was it Disneyland? I'm trying to remember. I think it was. It was some kind of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids thing. Even though is that a Disney movie? I don't know. But anyways, I believe it was at Disneyland when I was a kid. And I remember seeing some kind of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids thing. Actually, I might have been a teenager when I saw this. I'm not sure. But, we, the audience, got what we were watching. We were the shrunk ones, and we saw things come at us like a snake was like, and then going away. And it was interesting.
So, how about some games that just support those cheap paper 3D glasses? What's the worst that can happen?
And these games are bad.
This type of 3D is called anaglyph, and is generally one of the cheapest ways to achieve a 3D effect, as crude as it may be. You're not going to get very lifelike depth out of these things. They work best with something like a comic book, and when you try to use them with media featuring heavy amounts of movement, the effect just doesn't work as well, and in addition to that, the original color palette is washed out and lost. But that didn't stop Konami from putting this feature in Contra Legacy of War for the original PlayStation. Ew! The game itself isn't good, and now I can't see it? Well, that's actually better. Side 3 on the PlayStation 2 offered stages in 3D, of course being optional, viewable with glasses included within the manual. They even kind of look like Sly Cooper's eyes, which is a nice touch. Though both of these examples showcase how anytime anaglyph 3D was featured in a game, it was always a complete gimmick with barely to no amounts of value. I need to do better research. In reality, there is one more notable use of Anaglyph 3D, and
Okay.
that's with Metal Gear Acid 2 on the PSP. Bundled in here is the Solid Eye, a foldable cardboard contraption that goes over the PSP screen to allow the player to view 3D images in-game. This is something you'd expect to see on a Nintendo console long before a Sony one, and honestly, I feel like you can make endless connections between this and the modern method of obtaining inexpensive virtual reality by folding together cardboard and sliding a screen in there. Metal Gear Acid 2 did this all the way back in
Interesting.
2005. What's your
Wow.
excuse? Featuring 3D, however, was hardly ever a great selling point. I mean, most of these games save the explanation for the back cover. It's obvious not many people really cared about 3D.
Yeah.
If they did, there would be far more applications in gaming than there ended up being. I think we were all happy with the story ending there. And Nintendo and Sega tried it, and nothing of note happened. In fact, it hurt their companies, if anything. And including paper 3D glasses was pretty much just a novelty. Most games that did it, they did it because they wanted to distract people from their game being as mediocre as it was.
What?
So by the
Hold on, I'll be right back. Oh, crap. Ow. Okay. That hurt. I'm on my toe, so if I touch anything with my big toe, it hurts. Okay.
year 2009, it was time to say goodbye to reality. 3D is back in the mainstream with the release of the...
What?
So by the year 2009, it was time to say goodbye to reality. 3D is back in the mainstream with the release of the movie Avatar, setting box office records with the 3D edition being held in high regards as the version to see. Everybody was all about 3D again.
So, when I went to see Avatar in theaters, the first time I saw it was without 3D. Then I saw it again later in 3D, and to be honest, I wasn't impressed. I don't know, tell me what you think. Did you think the 3D looked good on Avatar, or did you not? Because, like I said, I watched it without it, and then I watched it with it. And I only really noticed 3D, like, on plants on the corner of the screen or something. Like, that's all I even remember being in 3D.
Every blockbuster film was releasing alongside a 3D version, with some making the 3D the core identity of the flick. Various classic movies were re-released in theaters in 3D. 3D TV sets were being sold as the next big thing, with 3D Blu-rays and 3D Blu-ray players being pushed right alongside them. Yep, it was a good time to be stupid. Now, the release of Avatar in late 2009 wasn't the true beginning of this 3D resurrection, as these 3D products were being developed and produced within the year or two beforehand. But because of that, the film's release couldn't have happened at a more perfect time. Trying to give consumers a reason for wanting this became a whole lot easier after they came back from seeing Avatar in 3D.
The hell was that?
So in came the 3D revolution, with Sony being one of the biggest supporters. I wonder why. The PlayStation 3 received a firmware update in the fall of 2010, enabling support for 3D TVs. And not everybody could experience 3D on the PS3. You had to own a 3D TV. I always see these logos on games this generation advertising 3D compatibility and cross my fingers when opening up the menus, turning on the functionality, thinking, once again, why wouldn't I just be able to use my paper glasses?
Huh.
Why wouldn't I just be able to be myself?
All right, this is a 3D TV, and not just any 3D TV, the PlayStation 3D display. Yes, a TV with PlayStation branding all over it, much like how Sony named a theater the PlayStation Theater. Is there any relevance to the name? Well, obviously not. On most accounts, the PlayStation 3D display is just a regular 24-inch 3D TV. You can use any console on it, and if they support 3D TVs, you can experience it with this set. You get these glasses which need to be recharged, which that right there sealed 3D TV's fate. Try explaining this to your dad. So not only is this not affordable like the paper glasses, but they need a power source, unlike the plastic movie theater glasses. I'm not disputing the need for power in glasses like these, but think of this from his perspective. This is my first 3D TV experience. It's also my last. This uses that active shutter technology, which is why the glasses need powered. The flicker between frames constantly helps maintain a high-resolution image. Those cheaper 3D glasses, yeah, they may not need power, but their method of creating a 3D image basically split the image in half, and in tandem, the resolution, so the image is much blurrier with these. So that's why we have glasses like these, and why 3D TV is a specific technology, even though, once again, I watched fucking Shrek 3D on a portable DVD player in 2005. I know it's different, but I don't think consumers knew that. Well, here we go. A PlayStation 3 game in 3D. It's like I'm really there. You can only experience conventional 3D so many times before just going, yeah, I get it. Don't get me wrong, many of these titles that support 3D, they integrate it fairly well. The standout title here is MotorStorm Apocalypse, which was actually bundled with the PlayStation 3D display due to its use of Simulview, a feature on some Sony 3D TVs allowing for split screen without the split screen. Two people wearing 3D glasses would each separately see their own screen in multiplayer. No squished or cropped aspect ratio, no screen peaking.
Okay,
It was a notable
really
idea.
nice.
Only
I like
around
that.
6 games supported the feature because 7 was woo. For the most part, 3D PS3 games were your standard affair, more depth in your
I actually really like that. The 3D perspective makes you only see your screen. That is so cool. That would be so great for first-person shooters, so that you can't just look at the other person's screen to know where they are and shoot them. That's actually really cool. It reminds me of Madden NFL 13 on Wii U. It's the only Madden that came out for Wii U. But but what was cool in that game, because of the gamepad, when you play it, well, the gamepad would have the playbook on it. So if you're playing with somebody else, they wouldn't actually see what plays you choose. Although you'd have to follow an honor system and not look at the TV when they're choosing to play. But it's still really cool. The idea of being able to only see your screen, though, that's awesome.
image, nothing crazy. I mean, a game like Uncharted 3 looks good in 3D, but no way in hell I'd want to play the entire game like this. More PS3 games supported this than Xbox 360. You can tell by the dedicated logo on the PS3 titles compared to the arts and crafts project on every 360 release. But most of these games work fine enough in 3D. They just aren't at all necessary. It's cool to see how the gun looks in Killzone 3, extending a bit outside the TV, and now fighting in Mortal Kombat has so many layers in the background. But then you have a Sonic Generations to ruin your breakfast.
Huh?
I don't buy it.
This is some of the most unrealistic 3D I've ever experienced. And that's not even accounting for the fact, well, I don't think this is possible. But the 3D feels like it's layered incorrectly. Sometimes it feels like background elements are in the foreground, while the foreground is in the background. I've seen numerous elements in double vision. On top of the fact when the 3D is noticeable, it's not really that deep, both literally and metaphorically. Like, it barely sinks in, and it just doesn't have anything of value to offer. It makes the game harder to play, and when it works, it's not impressive in the slightest. Now, let's be honest. This product format is obviously an evolution of those original 3D glasses we tried out for the Sega Master System and Famicom, though you used active shutters as well. The problem is, this is not a big enough evolution. Comparing these two products, they have far more in common than you may initially think.
Oh,
and they're
no.
20 years apart from each other, with this
Yeah.
one being heralded as the future. Like, yeah, it's more advanced, but like, they're doing the same shit. Numerous console games from 2009 to 2013 supported 3D displays, none of which being all too necessary. It's like, yeah, Resistance 3 works fine in 3D, but who cares? You're not missing anything by not playing it in 3D. If anything, you're missing more by playing it in 3D because the image probably won't be as clear. Even with the most optimized games, double vision still pops up. But ever since 2013, it became so damn rare to see a stereoscopic video game release. Which this just so happened to be around the time 3D was starting to go out of fashion again. 3D TVs were seen as a fad, not even a fad that really caught on, more so a fad that TV manufacturers were desperately trying to make a fad. I mean, none of
Yeah.
this made sense for the consumer. Why would you want your living room to feel like a theme park attraction? 3D is a concept that works in small doses when you're out and about. Why not? I'll try this out, make it more of a fun evening. Not as the default way to consume content recreationally.
Good point.
Which is why it's so interesting to see the most popular 3D device was f***ing hell again. Nintendo's back
Yes.
after trying 3D. The Nintendo 3DS, the successor to the Nintendo DS, was unveiled at E3 2010, utilizing a screen capable of displaying 3D images without the need for special glasses. This was a big deal. The barrier between
Seemed
3D
like a
and
time.
the rest of the world has finally been eliminated. Games can be in 3D without the hassle of needing to buy a 3D TV with clunky glasses. We can finally experience 3D normally as nature intended. The
Not really.
future for 3D content is bright, and Nintendo was leading the chart. So
Yep.
Nintendo was set to go all in with the 3D craze.
Not really.
Focal point of their latest handheld, the product line that was one of their most important, and those first few years of 3DS advertising pushed it hard. No need for glasses, games more immersive than ever before. Games that were far more precise with the aid of 3D. While the Nintendo 3DS's main gimmick leaned a bit hard into Virtual Boy territory, so do I. But this felt like Nintendo truly learned some lessons from that experience. For one, you can turn off the 3D. You don't ever have to play with it on, or if you don't want to. And if you do play with it on, you can adjust the intensity on the fly. That would have been a great feature on the 3D TV's glasses. This is the most user-friendly application of stereoscopy that exists, and it works beautifully without glasses. Of course, you
Yeah, I thought you just flipped it up and down. I didn't know you actually could adjust it in the middle.
have to hold the system dead on for the effect to work properly, but if you do that, it'll work properly. And the games themselves, I mean, talk about the best uses of 3D so far in gaming. Super Mario 3D Land was designed around it, making it easier to properly land jumps. Kirby Triple Deluxe, Planet Robobot, Donkey Kong Country Returns 3D, and Mutant Mudds have you hopping between the foreground and background. Remakes like Star Fox 64 3D, Ocarina of Time 3D, Majora's Mask 3D, Xenoblade 3D all implement the feature beautifully and breathe new life into iconic worlds. I'd say Mario 3D Land may be the only example of a game that may need 3D more than it doesn't, but many titles on the 3DS utilized it quite well, and being a flick of the slider away, it gave the 3D effect way more of an impact than going through hell and back to play Sonic Generations poorly. Now, I can play Sonic Generations poorly because the 3D isn't the issue, it's the game itself that f***ing stinks. Luigi's Mansion received a sequel on the 3DS, Dark Moon, with
Just to make it clear, he's not saying Sonic Generations is bad. He's talking about the 3DS version. A lot of people are in agreement about that. People, among the consensus among Sonic fans is that Sonic Generations is an amazing game, but the 3DS version is not. That's the consensus. I haven't played the 3DS version, so I am not going to judge. I've looked at it. I can tell it's not as good as the console version, but I don't know. Maybe it might not be that bad.
Superb 3D in tow. Like I said about the first game, the room-to-room camera angle made that game feel right at home using the gimmick. So a sequel coming to Nintendo's 3D handheld, it just felt like destiny. And then the original itself was remade entirely for the 3DS, so good for you, Nintendo. You fulfilled a lifelong desire twice. Why are you still so angry?
Yeah. That is really frustrating. I mean, I get that it's their intellectual property. I guess they feel like it'll take away sales from their actual games, but it doesn't, at least I don't think it does. I mean, yeah, maybe some people who can't, afford to buy a console might download these fan-made games on their computer and never buy a console because these fan-made games are available. So there is a way to look at it in Nintendo's favor too, but at the same time, it's frustrating because a lot of these fan-made games are really good, and and the people who play them are usually people who already play Nintendo games anyways, so it's not like they're losing out on that. It's ridiculous.
Many 3DS games just have fine enough 3D effects, with a few having poorly implemented 3D and some just straight up not including it for whatever reason.
Yeah.
But the ones that knocked it out of the park, those were the games that truly made the 3D effect worth it.
Okay.
Not that much. Yeah, the 3DS was priced at $200. Only made the 3D effect worth it. Not that much. Yeah, the 3DS was priced at $250
That was
at launch.
a bad
After
price.
a successful first month, nothing. Well, that is if you count no sales as nothing. Nintendo had to slash the price just 4 months into the handheld's life. That is unprecedented. But once Nintendo wised up and focused more on the actual games, sales went up and kept going up. And by 2013, the 3DS experienced its most content-rich year yet. I mean, so many good games to play, and to celebrate, Nintendo gutted their child. The Nintendo 2DS.
I got the blue one.
Just 2.5 years after the 3DS initially launched, got rid of the 3D display and
came with
the
Pokemon
superfluous
Y
features
included.
to offer a much more affordable and kid-friendly product. And remember, 3D is not meant for the eyes of a child, so for Nintendo to sell a product that has a giant warning, making it somewhat inaccessible to children under 7 with a new Pokemon game coming out,
What have we done?
and while 3D in the 3DS wasn't killed off with the introduction of the 2DS, it was obviously downplayed in the marketing for a bit there. The new 3DS and new 3DS XL revisions improved upon the 3D effect, utilizing eye tracking to ensure you don't need to hold the 3DS directly in front of your face all the time for the effect to work, and a few more big titles released, touting excellent use of 3D, like Metroid Samus Returns in 2017. But around that...
There's a prime example. There was AM2R, another Metroid 2 ROM hack, which was a really well-made ROM hack that was a remake of Metroid 2 for the Game Boy. But it was, an emulator in a computer. It was really well made, but Nintendo forced them to take it down, and soon after, Metroid Samus Returns came out, which is the official remake of Metroid 2 Return to Samus on Game Boy. Yeah, it's crazy how that works out.
More games were being put out without 3D at all on the 3DS, obviously because by this time, Nintendo knew most of the handheld's install base weren't playing with the slider up. So in the twilight years of the portable, when Nintendo was pumping out lower priority and budget software to keep it alive just in case the recently released Nintendo Switch bombed, they thought, why bother putting a good chunk of development time into a feature barely anybody was using? Yeah, 3D takes time and money to properly implement.
Yeah.
It's a whole ass another realm to consider when crafting your project. And the 3DS was the best way to experience it. Easy, comfortable, non-intrusive, perfect. But because of how non-intrusive it was, as easy as it was to experience, it was even easier to just not experience it at all and just play a game normally. And the fact Nintendo didn't bring the feature over to the Nintendo Switch says it all right there. But 3D isn't dead entirely, because everything it brought to the table, things flying in your face, being able to see depth in our games, it's all here in virtual reality. And let's be honest, if you're gonna ask us to put goggles on to be immersed in a game, just go all the way, man.
And you know what? I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I found 3D alone very seldom enhanced games. The only time I think it did was on the 3DS, and even then, the amount of games that truly benefited from the 3D being on was very limited. That doesn't mean the feature never had value, but if you're gonna use it, might as well go full-on virtual reality. So 3D gaming, it never really mattered. To Satan?
What the fuck? So that seems to be his new outro music. Is that from, like, Scott the Woz being on G4 TV or something? Anyways, thank you so much for watching. I didn't mean to record it for as long as I did. I actually got to go to work soon. Actually, I should have been working some time ago. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. I will make sure to get the Scott the Woz that I recorded, a reaction that I recorded, uploaded soon. I'm still going to be posting more shorts based on Johnny Depp stuff. I still have plans for upcoming reviews of Johnny Depp films, because my new subscribers, and I'm really pleased with this surge of subscribers. I gained over 100 more ever since uploading stuff about the Johnny Depp trial, which is a big increase in a short amount of time for a small channel like mine. So I gotta still prioritize the Johnny Depp stuff for sure. But anyway, Team Johnny. But anyway, there will be more reaction videos, and if I find something that really sticks, I'm going to focus on that. But, anyways, continuing on, thank you so much for watching. Scott the Woz makes some really good points about 3D and gaming. It can be a Marvel concept. It can be pretty cool. It can be neat. But unfortunately, most of the time it's not very well implemented, and if it is implemented well, it's not always used, like on the 3DS. I mean, personally, I've played 3DSs. Like I mentioned earlier, when I used to play one on the job at Taco Bell almost 10 years ago. Even before that, I played a 3DS at GameStop, and actually, the crumbs from the cookie I ate earlier just got up like that. Anyways. Oh yeah, when I was playing a 3DS at GameStop even before then, I turned on the 3D feature. It just didn't seem very immersive. Even in Super Mario 3D World, I didn't really notice it that much. But I don't know. Maybe I just didn't really give it that much of a chance and prefer just not to have it turned on. I guess I'd never really been that big a fan of 3D stuff. There have been times where I thought it was cool, but not always. For example, I had mentioned in a community post on YouTube that I was that my birthday June was on June 19th. Oh, and today, the June 23rd, is my friend Kevin's birthday. Happy birthday to him. And June 29th is my wife's birthday. And I guess June 21st was the birthday of one of my featured channels, the Retro Critic, friend of mine. We only met in person once, but we've talked to each other a lot on streams and videos and stuff like that. But anyway, a lot of freaking birthdays in June. Goddamn. Anyways, what was really cool. So I had mentioned that my birthday was on June 19th, and then I said that on June 20th I was going to celebrate it because June 19th was a Sunday, my busiest work day. So I worked on that day, and then I celebrated on June 20th at Epicenter here in Santa Rosa, just down the street from where I live. And at Epicenter, there's arcades, there's indoor soccer, indoor tennis, or whatever, bowling, laser tag, and dark ride, which was a really cool thing where you get to shoot stuff. Or you're actually sitting in a theater, like a little theater, with a screen in front of you. You put on some glasses, hold a gun, you shoot at stuff, and you shoot at whatever you see, the monsters you see. Whether there's various scenarios. There's robots. There's Mad Max style one. There's zombies. There's aliens. All kinds of cool stuff, and that you can choose from to play against, to shoot against. And the seats you're in move and stuff, so you can feel the movement and all that stuff. And the glasses merge you into it, make it seem like it's coming at your face. It's really cool. So 3D still being done at various places too. That was made with the 3D in mind, but yeah, there are some places that might not have, but there are some, but a lot of games don't really have, if that have 3D, are not made with that in mind, so it's not implemented very well. So that's just naming off an example where it was made with 3D in mind, and it's pretty good, pretty good. Although last time I went there, just 3 days ago, it seemed like there was some wear and tear on the machine. It wasn't as good as I remembered it years ago. But it's been there, for years, so maybe it needs some maintenance. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it. Please like, comment, subscribe, click that bell icon to add me notifications. Stay tuned. I will upload. Excuse me. I'm just recovering from a cold. I'm fine. But I will be uploading a review. I will be script writing some reviews for Johnny Depp films. In fact, I could actually show you. Actually, no, I don't have to show you that in this video. I've been talking long enough, but thank you so much. Have a good one. And what do you think about the Scott the Woz video? Did you like it? I thought it was really good. I thought he explained things really well. I thought it was funny. And to add to that, I guess check out my playlist of Scott the Woz reaction videos. Not to mention, the one for Donkey Kong Barrel Blast. I'll get that done. I'm sorry I delayed it as long as I did. I already recorded it back when it first came out, but I just hadn't, put it together. This one is ready though. I'll get that one done as soon as possible. Thank you so much.